So I guess you're wondering about the whole workflow from recording to editing inside of ScreenFlow. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you beginning to end what my ScreenFlow recording and editing workflow is. My name is Meredith Marsh, and I'm here to help you look good, sound good, and feel good on camera. And this video is sponsored by Epidemic Sound. So we'll talk a little bit more about Epidemic when we get to adding background music and sound effects inside of ScreenFlow. So coming up to the top menu in the ScreenFlow menu, I'm going to come down to Configure Recording. And this is where I select all of the things that I want to record with ScreenFlow. So I'm going to record my screen, so I want to select my Thunderbolt display. I technically have one monitor, that's the Thunderbolt display. And because I'm using the Duet app with my iPad and my teleprompter, my iPad and teleprompter acts as a second monitor. I don't want to record that one, so I have Thunderbolt display selected. And my camera and microphone are both connected to my computer through the Rode Streamer X. This is a new device. I just purchased it. This allows me to connect my microphone through the XLR cable instead of the USB cable. It allows me to connect my camera to my computer because it has a built-in capture card. If you've ever watched my videos before, you may have seen me mention this Elgato Cam Link, which is also a capture card, allows you to connect your camera to your computer. And I'm not using this because I have the Rode Streamer X now. So because I want to pick up my camera and my microphone, I'm selecting the Streamer X as the input for the video camera and also as the input for the microphone. And if you're new here, I'm using a Canon M50 Mark II with a Sigma 16mm lens as my camera. I'm using a regular real camera. If I wanted to switch to, say, my built-in webcam in my monitor, it doesn't look that great. That's why I use a real camera. And my microphone here is the Audio Technica ATR 2100X. I love this because it's really affordable. I think it's like $80 or something. And you can connect it directly to your computer through a USB-C, or you can use the XLR to connect it to a real like audio interface. So I'm going to tap this little square down here. This is going to allow me to come down here and decide, what exactly I want to record. So what's in this window that's moving around here, that's what's going to be recorded. So usually I record my whole entire screen, which is bigger than 1920 by 1080, which allows me to do some zoom in and zoom out kind of animations in my screen recordings, which we will get to. But if I want to have notes open on the screen and not have those visible in the screen recording, then I will select 1920 by 1080 and just record this kind of upper left-hand corner of the screen. So my notes can hang out over here on the right-hand side. And I'm going to go ahead and just come over to screen dimensions here. So I am recording the whole screen, and I'm going to hit that big red button. So it's going to give me a 3-second countdown. Let me pull something up here. If you are not familiar with Adobe's free mic check, this is a really cool site, podcast.adobe.com/mic check. This allows you to do a little test recording, and it will tell you how your mic is sounding. So up at the top, I'm going to hit stop record, and it's going to open up ScreenFlow for me. And you can see that we have a screen recording file and we have the actual video file. This is where I was talking to you, to the camera. So these are separate files. They can all be edited separately, and we will be getting to that momentarily. Now, usually when I'm recording a longer screen tutorial that's going to be like 10 or 15 minutes long, edited, or even longer than that, I usually record it in small chunks and record kind of like one thing at a time or one task or whatever it is that I'm showing you in the videos. That way I can edit as I go. So let me show you what I mean. All I really have to do is start recording, stop recording, and then start and stop again. If I just hit this red button, it's going to record my whole screen and everything. I don't have to reselect all of my different input. But now I'm recording my whole screen. I can share something, whatever it is that I'm trying to record. And then when I go up and hit stop record, it's going to ask me, what do I want to do with that thing that I just recorded? And this is where you can select just to add it to the document that I already have created and already have open, and have add clips to timeline selected. I can give this a name, which makes it really easy to find later on in my timeline, and hit OK. And it's just going to add down here directly into the timeline. So now I can sort of edit as I go. If I know that I messed something up, I can make a cut. I can cut it out completely. That way I'm saving myself a lot of time later when I go back through to do an edit, because by the time I'm done recording, I already kind of have a rough cut of the final video, which is really helpful. Now let's dive into the editing. I have a project opened up here for my YouTube channel. I haven't really done any editing beyond what I've showed you already, where I record and then just kind of edit as I go. So I have a rough cut here, and editing is really where the magic happens with ScreenFlow. It's where you can do a lot of really cool things, and it can take you a lot of time to edit in ScreenFlow if you're using all of the bells and whistles and also trying to find your way around. So I've streamed my process quite a bit using my Streamdeck, where I have programmed some of the keyboard shortcuts that correspond to some of the actions and presets that I use the most. I will show you that as we go, but let's dive into this edit here. Just going to get my space kind of set up here. We have some intro clips here at the beginning, and then we have some clips where I recorded just my screen and my audio, and then I have an outro over here at the end. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to detach my audio so that I can actually see my waveforms down here at the bottom. You can see those are populating. So on my keyboard, I hit the plus or minus button to zoom in or out on my timeline. And I like to zoom in pretty much as far as I can. So I like following this process I call the BFF method of video editing. This is what I teach my clients and students. BFF stands for basic, fine tune, and then fancy. So I do all the basic stuff first. I make sure everything is on the timeline and everything is in the order that I want it to be in. And I have a basic rough cut or a rough edit. That means all of the mistakes are edited out, and all I have to do is clean up the cuts and then add some fancy stuff later. Now, when I have a big gap in my timeline here, I'm going to select the gap by just clicking on it, and then also shift to select the other one, Command Delete, and it's going to shift everything in those two rows over. Another way of doing this, just to make sure you're actually shifting everything over, is to set an in and out point for the gap, and then Command Delete, and then everything will shift over on all of the different tracks. So let me share my first Streamdeck tip with you. If you are just going to split a clip, if you select the clip and you hit T, if you select both of these tracks here and hit T, it will split both of those tracks. Or you can do a multi-split. So I have a shortcut on my Streamdeck for a multi-split. Multi-split is Shift T on my keyboard. So I have multi-split here. It's Shift T, just like that. And that's going to give us a multi-split. You have less things to click if you can just hit multi-split, and it's going to split both of those clips right there. So if you have learned something new so far, make sure you follow me here for more video creation tips just like this one. But if you're creating screen recording videos to build your thriving channel and your thriving online business, my best YouTube audience growth tip is coming up. But let's finish this off. I want the screen recording on the screen, but I don't want the audio that I recorded. So I'm just going to trim that out. But then I also do want the audio and the visual for this part of the recording to be present. And so I'm just kind of overlapping the two visuals here, the screen and my talking head portion. And this is layered like a cake. So whatever's on the top of the cake is what is going to be visible on top. So this is where it's going to get really fun with some of our actions over here. So I'm going to hit the T on my keyboard to make a split here. What I want to do is make myself a little bit smaller over here. So the way that I would do this is a little bit fancy. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an action. So in this video panel, if I hit action, you can see it added this yellow kind of like little overlay on my timeline here. With this action selected, if I adjust my video file here for the talking head portion, so I change the size, I'm changing the location, then what I just did is basically created an animation. So watch this. 3 ways that I use. It's pretty fancy, but it's also pretty easy. I can also take this and move it. So I want it to start at the beginning of where the screen recording is going to come in. So I'm actually going to delete that because what I want to show you is I created a preset for this. I have an add action preset on my Stream Deck, and then I have a circle preset. And then, so I click that, it goes to a circle, and I'm going to move that over here, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Is that I use, that's some fancy pants stuff right there. We can talk about creating a talking head circle. I'll save that for another portion of the video, so I'll get to it. Just stick with me here. Okay, so now that I do have my actual rough cut is here, and I've already done a little bit of the fine tuning between the clips just to make sure that I don't have any extra frames that I don't need where I'm not saying anything or I'm taking a breath. The next thing that I like to do between my cuts is where I just kind of overlap the cut a little bit. This could be called an L cut or a J cut. It's not a true L cut or a J cut. I like to just overlap the tail end of my ending audio with the tail beginning of the beginning of the next audio. And it just makes, I think, for a smoother transition when you're not actually transitioning. So like I mess up my words a lot. I say the wrong thing. I make a lot of mistakes that have to get edited out. Sometimes I'm making a cut in the middle of a sentence where it's not going to come out sounding natural in the edit at all, because I'm literally chopping up my sentences because I said the wrong thing. And so this is just a way to mask that a little or smooth it out a little or just help it sound a little bit more like a fluid sentence. So when I'm doing this inside of ScreenFlow, the way that I do it is just I move my 2 tracks above and below and then slide them over. And I'm just visually looking at where my waveform starts to go out and the other waveform starts to come in. Now you can probably see here that my screen recording file is going like out of bounds of the frame of this video that I'm creating. And I did that on purpose. I'll show you why in just a minute. But before I get to that, I want to show you some of the presets that I have to kind of manage this situation. So in the video panel over on the right, the screen recording file is selected in the timeline and it's at 100% because it recorded my whole entire screen, which is bigger than 1920 by 1080. I could take this and literally just scale it down with my mouse, or I could come in here and just say, put this at 75%, and that will fit the whole screen recording onto the frame, which is fine. That also works. But I created a preset for this. So the way that works is then all I have to do is come up to the preset button and I have 75% screencast center. And I have a keyboard shortcut. You can see I have a number 6 here. So if I hit 6 on my keyboard, it's going to initiate that preset. I just hit undo, or you can just come in here and actually select it and it will do that. But one more thing I want to show you is I have this programmed on my Stream Deck. So because I have the preset and I have a keyboard shortcut of the number 6, my Stream Deck is programmed to simply, when I hit this button, 75% center, it's equivalent to me hitting a 6 on my keyboard. So this is where it comes in really handy to record your screen bigger than your 1920 by 1080 because you can zoom in on stuff. I can do that I can zoom in on the whole entire clip, but what I really want to do is add an action. So I'm going to hit add action on my Stream Deck because that is a preset that I have set up over here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on my cursor over here on the left to correct and download. Here, my mouse is actually moving up. I'm going to add another action and I'm just going to move my whole thing up. I'm just grabbing the actual video, moving it up. So I want to zoom in even more so that you, the viewer, can see even more clearly what it is that I am actually clicking on. So we're going to add a call out. And the way that we do this is I'm going to hit add action. It's hard to see because the screen is so dark, but if I hit border up, it's going to give a bigger circle there to kind of focus on. And I can also zoom up as well. So if I do that, and then I'm going to do build in and build out so that there's a little bit of an animation, hitting these three dots and go to export, and I'm going to add a call out action. I have a preset, of course I do. I have a preset for a circle spotlight with a pink border. I'm going to tap this. So instead of having to go in and say, okay, we want opacity 20% and zoom up 155 and border 181, I don't have to do that. I just have the preset, so it's saved. So all I have to do is click that button, which I also have programmed into the Stream Deck too. Now, it took me forever to figure this out, but if I hit copy, I'm going to just use, it's just Command C or copy on my Stream Deck. And then come over here to this other clip, make sure it's selected. And I'm just going to do, I have a shortcut for this on the Stream Deck, but it's edit, paste properties, and then video. And that copied the video properties from one clip and pasted them onto the other clip. So it's seamless. Now we reached a spot here where I need to add some text to the screen. And I usually with ScreenFlow, I don't get real fancy with this. But I just have a spot where I forgot to mention something. So I'm going to just go to the T, go to text and titles, hit the plus button. We're going to add text. We're just going to do copy and paste video. Make this smaller. Let's adjust our text. Pencil icon, we'll hit annotations. I want to do an arrow. So an arrow is just a line with an arrow on the end of it. So I'm just selecting this line tool here, and I'm just going to put like an arrow directed that way. And then the end points, I'm going to select an arrow endpoint, and now I just created an arrow. So I've gone through and made, most of my fine tunes and fancy stuff. There's a few more things that I want to add. One of those being some sound effects. What I like to do sometimes when I reference another video that I've done on my channel, I will take a screenshot of that video, like as it appears on YouTube. 3 of them here. So I'm mentioning Descript. I want to kind of pop those videos on the screen, and I'm just going to pull these in and drop them onto my timeline so that they are here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer these all, and I'm going to have them kind of pop in at separate times. So let's talk about Epidemic Sound, because this has been my source for background music and sound effects for years now. If you're looking for a really good pop sound, search for mouth pop. Kind of like that. Perfect. So I'm going to download this to my desktop. I'm just going to drag this down. So now it looks like this. Done a few videos. Now you've heard me mention Epidemic Sound on my channel a bunch of times. If you've ever watched a video from me, I'm just going to download one of these tracks here to use as some background music for this video that I am editing. What I love about Epidemic Sound is they have a huge library of all different kinds of genres for your videos, and you're paying for the license to use that music across all of your social media platforms. So you don't have to worry about getting a copyright strike or like a copyright violation, whether you're just putting your videos on YouTube or you're going to like TikTok or Instagram Reels or even your podcast music. you don't have to worry about those kinds of things with your Epidemic Sound license. But they also have a community program, which is open to anybody. So when you're an Epidemic Sound customer, you receive a custom link that's tracked back to you. So anytime somebody signs up for Epidemic Sound with a 30-day trial using your link, you receive an extra month for free. And then once you refer 12 people, you're elevated to the status of ambassador, which opens you up for the potential to actually earn money from the people that you are referring. So whether you're looking for high quality, royalty-free music for your YouTube videos, your podcast, your short form content, or you want an opportunity to earn some extra revenue through their community program, I highly recommend Epidemic Sound, and I will link to them down in the description below this video. With background music, you always want to crank the volume down. So I actually am going to trim this. I'm going to get rid of the last part, and I want this to fade out. So I'm going to come down here to add ending transition, and then it's going to fade out for me, and I can adjust. Okay, now I promised I would show you how to make a circle with your talking head portion, and I really wish there was a simpler way to do this with ScreenFlow, but there really isn't. I wish there was just like a one-click button situation. What we have over here in the video settings panel is we have the ability to do a corner round, which looks like this. And we also have a little drop down for cropping. So you can look at like the numbers that you see over here for my right and left crops, but it's going to be totally different for you depending on like the size of your video, where you are centered in the frame. And these crops only go to 400 on this little scale, but you can punch in another number. So you can go higher than 400. Like I said, I wish they made this easier. You're going to put me in the square here. I kind of want my face to be center, and then go down to corner round. And you can see here how the corners are round, but they're like a little too round. So we are just going to eyeball it, maybe something like that, but the edges are still a little bit straight. So we'll go a little bit more. There's no way to get it perfect. You just have to kind of eyeball it. And we'll take a look at what we can do with a shadow. I think on mine, what I usually do, give it a shadow. You can see over here how it's just a little bit fuzzy. You can play with the opacity. You can play with the blur size. Play around with it. That's how you create the circle. Now this is the edit that I'm working on right now, the one that you're actually watching right now. This is one of the bigger ScreenFlow tutorials and projects that I've ever done. It's like we're going to be at 20 minutes long, and this has taken me quite a long time to edit. I'm not going to lie, but I want to show you how to export and get the right export settings when you are done and you are ready to save this, as a video file that you can upload to YouTube or wherever. Up in the top, go to File, and then you can go to Export. You're going to save it, give it a name. You're going to choose where you want it to go. And I usually do just normal for my encoding quality. If you do fast, it's going to have a smaller file size. If you do slow, it's going to be better quality, but it's going to have a bigger file size. Choose your resolution, and then you just hit export down here at the bottom. As you can see, this is going to give me about a 1 gigabyte file, which is a pretty big file if you ask me, but it is a 20-minute long screen recording. So that's how the cookie crumbles. I want to remind you to check out Epidemic Sound for your background music, your sound effects, and take a look at their community program so that you can add that as a possible revenue stream to your business. Now, when it comes to using screen recording style videos to build your thriving YouTube channel, creating a library of binge-worthy videos is the most powerful way to do that. And I have a video explaining exactly how to become binge-worthy on YouTube so that you can attract new customers and subscribers with every single video that you publish. I'll cue that up for you here, and I will link to it in Epidemic Sound down below.